Welcome to the AI argument. I'm Frank Prendergast. This is my co-host, Justin Collery. Happy New Year, Justin. How are you
Happy New
feeling?
Year, Frank. How do I feel? I feel good. I'm still recovering from the Christmas festivities, which seem to have gathered at the back of my throat and up my nose. So apologies if I sound a little bit nasal. But I'm great. It's a new year. It's got off to a cracking start. What an end to last year. My goodness. The 12 days of Christmas delivered. Then we had DeepSeek. Then we had NVIDIA at the CES show. I mean, it's been a hell of a month.
I know we literally, on our last show before Christmas, we finished our show and about 20 minutes later, the internet was exploding with stories that OpenAI had achieved AGI.
Yeah, and not just right that, but actually a lot of many of the different AI companies are saying, yeah, look at AGI. I mean, Sam came out this week and said AGI is no longer our mission. ASI is now our mission. The path to AGI is clear. Logan Kirkpatrick from Google X OpenAI said, look at it's pretty obvious how to create AGI. The thing that I found interesting was, everybody was saying, how is Ilya going to get to ASI on a couple of billion? And now it's starting to look more reasonable. If he knew what he was doing, maybe he didn't need massive amounts of money. Everybody, what's the guy that you like? Ethan Mollock. Ethan Mollock even put out a tweet saying, look, you can believe this or you cannot believe it. But every single researcher that he talks to in every lab says that the path to AGI is known and well-founded. And he's an academic. He's not there to blow it up or to hype it or anything like that.
Yeah. So let's take a step back, because basically what happened was what has actually happened is OpenAI have not even released O3. They've announced O3 is coming. And they did a video announcing it and talking about what it was capable of. And so basically, I'm gonna have to check the name of it again now, but it basically did really well on the benchmark test that the kind of best known benchmark test we have for AGI. It did really well on. And it's called ARC AGI is the test. So it scored, let's see, it scored 76% on that test, which beats which basically, I think a passing score is 85%. Now,
what I think they did it twice. So they did it first on a low compute mode, and it got that's 75, 76%, something like that. And they did it on a high compute mode, and it got, was it 82, 85, something like that. And I think 80 is the bar.
Okay, so yeah, I think I thought 80% was like humans can solve, and then 85 would be AGI. Therefore, it's better than most humans at the tasks. I think that's what I read. But but I think as well, I think it's important to acknowledge that like that 76%, that's the actual score, because one of the parameters for the test is that you can't spend more than 10K on the compute to do the test. So as you were saying, they did it a second time, and they kind of ignored that rule just out of curiosity, just as an experiment. And yes, then it passed it. But I was watching a really interesting video from Wes Roth. Do you follow him? His stuff's really, really good. And he got ChatGPT to do kind of back of a napkin maths to figure out how much they might have spent on the one where they just said, go mad, do whatever you want, we don't care about the compute cost. Because they released the cost of the actual test, that it was under 10K and that they got the 76%. But for the one where they got the passing mark, they did not release the cost. So he got ChatGPT to look at how many tokens it used and kind of do an estimation of what it might have cost. And it came up with $347,500. So
quite a lot of money.
So it's a lot of money. And like, what I find really interesting is like, they kept it under 10K to get 75.7%. And then it cost 350,000 to get to 87.5. That's a huge jump. And kind of fascinating for what we were talking about at the end of last year about the cost of access to AI changing now. Because
Yeah,
if you want the ultimate best possible AI, then right now you're going to have to be paying a lot more for those incremental advantages.
it's totally fine, Frank. I can guarantee you, and I'm not joking, right? I can
Yeah.
absolutely guarantee you that it was, what did you say it was, 350,000?
Yeah,
Divide that
just under.
divide that by 10, so that's 35,000. In less than 12 months it'll be a tenth the price, and 12 months after that it'll be a tenth the price again. So actually,
Yeah.
and this comes from the DeepSeek paper, which we're going to talk about in a while, right? But when I
Mm.
saw that was made me, I had actually thought about this conversation, and it made me think that, you know what, at competition, right? So, between XAI, Google, who are giving their stuff away for free at the moment, right? So there's commercial pressures forcing the price down, and then you have, technical advances where models are being trained for less than 10% of what it took previously. I wouldn't be too worried about, this idea of a two-tier. It'll happen at the very start, but 6 or 12 months later, the price is going to drop precipitously, and that's happened over the last 12 or 18 months. The price has dropped by 90 or 95%. The same is going to happen, and you can see it for those two reasons, both commercially and technically. It's absolutely going to happen. So you can rest easy on that one, Frank.
Yeah,
It'll be okay.
I mean, that is a good point. That is a good point about the costs constantly and consistently coming down. Another thing I think worth digging into when it comes to like the test and AGI, because like the internet is just buzzing about AGI now. But one of the creators of the test, one of the guys from ARC AGI, he made the point that like the test is like an experiment. And it doesn't guarantee, passing the test doesn't guarantee that we have achieved AGI. And one of the things that he was saying, one of the reasons he was saying that we haven't, that this doesn't mean that O3 is AGI, the reason being that it still fails at some questions that it should get right, that it should, some simple questions that humans can easily answer, it still gets them completely wrong. So,
Did you
which
look
I
at
think,
one of these as a
say
matter
that
of
again?
interest? Did you know there was one question in particular that I came across where it was, how the test is. You got the boxes and the
Yeah.
colors, squares, and you got to predict the next one basically. And there was one there, and I looked at it and I went, "Oh my god, I can't believe I got that one wrong." It's obvious that the red line goes down like this, and the other red line goes across like this, and where it intersects the boxes, they go red. And that was what O3 guessed, and that was the wrong answer. So actually, I would have got that one wrong too. So I'm not. I know that people said this. Oh, a 3-year-old could answer these questions and get them right. Well, no, actually, that's not true, because the average human gets 80% of them right, and one of the ones which O3 got wrong, I would have also got wrong. So I agree with you, right? It isn't a proof of AGI, but I don't think the test is as easy as people were making out. Going, Ash, look at a 4-year-old could do that. This old
No,
machine.
I would agree with you there, but I do think that reliability is a big issue when it comes to defining AGI, and
Yes.
the fact that if we're looking at, like, I find it interesting. So this kind of brings us on to, first of all, I read an article where Sam Altman was saying, oh, the term AGI isn't useful anymore. So they're kind of, as they're getting closer to AGI, they're kind of shifting the goalposts a lot. Now,
Who's paid
the
out, Frank?
OpenAI,
But I think everybody is. Like,
absolutely, because it's really hard to define.
but also, if you had given what we have today, if you could go back to, slightly younger Frank 5 or 10 years ago, and give him, advanced voice mode with vision on your phone, and said, "Here, will you talk with that and tell me, do you think it's AGI or not?" Like, you'd have got, this is ASI. This thing's incredible. It knows everything, and it can see what I can see. Like, my God, why are you even asking me? This is clearly not just AGI. This is smarter than any human on the planet. So it's not just OpenAI that are moving the goalposts. Society is changing as we sort of get comfortable with the idea, and we're moving the goalposts too.
Yeah, but like, so yes, you're right. Me in the past would have been blown away by voice mode, and I probably would have said, "Oh my God, yes, this must be super intelligence," like on first pass. But then it would have
Hmm.
got something really simple, really wrong, and that would have had me scratching my head, going, "No, hang on, wait a second, hang on a minute here now." And I
You met
think
me.
that
I get really simple shit wrong all the time. Anyway, sorry. But you see, yeah, that's the goalpost. Anyway, carry on.
And now, so we have the goalposts shifting even more because, like, OpenAI have a definition of AGI that is something to do. I can't even remember it actually, but on their website somewhere they have, like, they would be able to do most tasks better than most humans or something along those lines.
Economically valuable work, I think, is the phrase they use.
Right. And now there was a leaked, I think the information got hold of a leaked internal document that said that between OpenAI and Microsoft, there was a slightly different definition because they have this agreement, as we've talked about on the show before, that if
Yeah.
OpenAI achieve AGI, then the contract between OpenAI and Microsoft is kind of null and void, and it can't be used in products, etc., for Microsoft. And so apparently in this internal document, they've said that AGI is achieved when it is capable of generating, was it 100 billion in profit?
100 billion in profits. I mean, if you didn't already have an enormous amount of respect for Satya, I now have an enormous amount of respect for Satya. I mean, that
Uh,
was just beautiful when I saw that. And what a load of rubbish people were talking about previously, where they said, "Oh, OpenAI are trying to, declare the board are going to declare AGI, and that's going to null and void the contract between OpenAI and Microsoft." Well, Microsoft didn't become the biggest, most valuable company in the world by writing contracts and not protecting themselves. I was really impressed by this, and it's totally logical. I mean, it makes an awful lot of sense. You're going to invest an awful lot of money, you got to get the money back, and if you're going to, like, the big clause in it, and that it's up to AGI. Why wouldn't you put a dollar value on it? Otherwise, you could declare, this pen AGI, and that's it. The contract is over. Like, no, there has to be something that you can test, and the easiest test in America is dollars.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's certainly an interesting way around the difficulty in defining what precisely is AGI because, OpenAI and Microsoft could argue till the cows come home on just a simple point like we were talking about just now, as in if it still makes really simple errors that you wouldn't expect it to make,
Mm,
could it possibly be called AGI, even though 90% of the time it can do PhD level work?
yeah.
So you could argue about that forever, but you can't argue about 100 billion in profit. It's a very simple thing. However, I do kind of feel like, if OpenAI's mission statement is, ensure AGI benefits all humanity.
Mhm.
And I know I'm laughing even as I say it because, I just don't think that's their true mission statement anymore. And when you look at now how they're defining AGI, oh yeah, it has to make 100 billion in profit. I'm like, yeah, the the values are no longer rooted in benefits all humanity. The values are in how do we make this thing profitable? How do we make money from it? And
They're not
yeah,
mutually
let's
exclusive, right?
let's define it all by our wallets.
It's possible to make $100 billion and benefit all of humanity at the same time, and that's the sort of breadth of vision that I've come to expect from companies like OpenAI. I'm sorry, I couldn't say it with a straight face. I tried really hard.
Do you, would they not just change their mission statement to like make 100 billion in profit? Could that?
And why? I mean, because then you're limiting yourself. Why stop at 100? Um, and look, I don't have a problem with it. I know what you say. It doesn't matter. Actually, I genuinely think it doesn't matter. If you make AGI and if you make ASI, all of these things become moot. Like, you have benefited all of humanity. You might make 100 billion in a world where 100 billion really doesn't matter because you're in a world where it's probably
Well,
post scarcity. You have I don't know what you're going to use the money for.
I like the way you just casually throw in there, if you achieve ASI, you have benefited all humanity. I mean, we still have a lot of experts who fervently believe that AI has a 99.99999% chance of completely wiping out humanity. So I don't think achieving ASI is a given that you've benefited all of humanity.
Well, 100 billion
But
is a
look,
pretty good incentive not to let it wipe out all of humanity. I mean, you're not going to get any money if everybody's dead. So, I mean, that's something to be thankful for.
yeah, yes, let me be clear. I don't think their intention is to set out to destroy us all.
No, no,
Uh,
but you know what I mean? I mean,
but so apart from AGI, I think we can all agree that actually, I got to be honest, you were right and I was wrong, because I genuinely did not think that we would be seeing a release before, or even an announcement before Christmas, of such a big leap in capabilities in AI.
yeah,
It actually really took me by surprise, given what I was reading about people saying, so many people saying we were hitting a wall. And I know Sam Altman was always saying we're not hitting a wall, we're not hitting a wall. But so many people were saying that there was a wall being hit, and we had people saying that, like, there is no, secret model that is way better. The models are being given to consumers as quickly as they're being developed. So I was not expecting that big leap. So I think you deserve credit there. You 100%, you saw that coming.
oh, look at that
and
guess.
and so there's no doubt that we are seeing incredible improvements. And whether it's AGI or whether it's not, you brought my attention to another really interesting kind of marker of, like, where are we going to be at in the next couple of years? And that was a bet between who? Miles Brundage and Gary Marcus. Tell
Yeah,
me
well,
about
actually,
tell me
before
about
we
this
go there,
bet.
we will go there, right? I'm going to give you some good news. I'm going to give you
Okay,
some good
good.
news right
Good,
first,
I could
right?
do it then.
Yeah. So just to do O3, which I mean, I think we're going to get. Sam said we're going to get it before the end of a couple of things I want to say about this, right? Sam said we're going to get it before the end of January, so in the next couple of weeks. He made a very interesting comment yesterday, the day before. He talked about researchers. He said it's very easy for people to copy research when you already know that the path works. It's very hard to do the research and be the first when you're not sure which is the correct path to go on, and therefore the researchers should be the heroes, right? And that's really true. Um, and what he was talking about there, I think also, is that the cat is out of the bag now. There's papers being released on how to replicate what they've done, and it's not going to take very long. So everybody's going to have a similar type model, and we're going to rush ahead, which is going to be great for development and stuff like that. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, which is good news for both of us. There was another benchmark called the SWE test, which is you just take a code repo from GitHub, which is there's this code that's on the internet, and real bugs. So it's real bugs and real code. And you just tell the model, go fix the bugs, right? Here's all the bugs, here's the code, go fix it. And it scores 79% O3 on fixing these bugs, which is just, again, mind blowing, just incredible. And is very real world. If you think in any software company, there are people whose job it is to fix bugs, and there's customers who put in bug whatever. It looks on the face of it that this thing can solve 80% of those almost with no human interaction at all, which is incredible. But it turns out that it depends on how you use the tool. So if you just give it the code and say go fix it, it doesn't get 80%. It gets 25 or 30%. It does a terrible job, right? You wouldn't use it. But if you give it a framework, if you tell it what to do and you say, first you're going to do this, second you're going to do this, third you're going to do this. So give it a framework, not a complicated, but a framework. And then it does get 80%, which I know one of your, I mean, I'm working software, so that's comforting to me that I'll have a job for another 6 months at least, which is great. And you're always concerned that there should be some sort of human feedback, or, there should be a human involved somewhere. And what this is showing is that, the AI is incredible, but it's still at a stage where it's incredible so long as there's a human involved and a human saying what should happen. And that is a very long-winded segue to my favorite human on the internet. Excuse me, Gary Marcus, who I love very deeply. And so Gary Marcus has had a bet with Miles Brundage. Miles Brundage, you may remember, was the head, a very senior member of OpenAI, to do with regulation and safety, and he was one of that team. So they've had a pretty good they've had a conversation on Twitter about where it's going. This isn't even by the end of this year. This is by the end of 2027. So 25, 26, 3 years. So let's go through and we'll just see where you are on this. So the bet is that Gary Marcus says that by the end of 2027, AI will not be able to do 8 out of 10 of these tasks. Now, if we go back 3 years, we didn't even have ChatGPT 3.5. We were still on GPT-2 3 years ago. And so we're going to go forward. So Gary Marcus is betting against that same level of advancement, I believe. So let's go through. First thing, AI will not be able to watch a previously unseen movie and follow the plot, be able to answer questions like who are the characters, what are the conflicts and the motivations, how did things change, and what was the plot twist. So it won't be able to watch a movie and follow it. What do you think? In 3 years, right?
This is a really interesting one to me. Be able to follow plot twists and know when to laugh.
Wow. Yes. Okay. Yes, he's got it. Yeah. That one's. I mean, I think advanced voice mode does that already.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't see that one as being like one of the bigger challenges in this list. But I was curious about the know when to laugh. I was like, hang on, is he talking about a vision mode and, real-time reactions to the movie, or like how does an AI laugh? I guess is my question.
I don't see this as being a problem, right? So you can already have Google already have the vision, and you can throw hours of video at it, and it will quite accurately count cars and do stuff for you. I've absolutely no.
So basically, we need to be able to point our phone at the TV screen, and it needs to know when to go ha ha ha.
Yeah, in 3 years, no problem. Right, that one's easy. Yeah, all right, let's go to number 2. Similar to be able to read a new novel and reliably answer questions about the plot, character, conflicts, motivation, going beyond the literal text in ways that will be clear to ordinary people.
Going beyond the literal text. That's interesting. I mean, that's a hard one to answer, isn't it? Because it would seem as if it can do that, but of course, like, I'm only ever going to be asking it about stuff that's in its training data. So
yeah, go on.
I mean, I think for a new novel, for a novel that's just published that is not in the training data, would it be able to go beyond the literal text? I don't know. I actually don't know. I've you know what I mean? I've never tried to question it on a brand new novel because, well, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I opened a book.
I don't go around writing novels every week, so I don't have one to hand. I think that's a given. I tell you what I saw actually to this. I saw a guy, and he asked a question about a particular paper, like an academic paper or whatever, but asked him to answer it in the style of Q from Star Trek. And it did it really well, right? It was really good, and it was funny, and it was very Q-like. And I was just thinking about how incredible that was. That Q from Star Trek, he was in, 4 episodes, right? So it's not as if it's a character that's like got millions of words written about it. So if you think this thing is trained on the entire internet, and you can say, write this in the style of Q from Star Trek, and it can pick out of its entire training data and perfectly interpret this authentic text with that particular person over there and put them together and give it to you. So being able to read a novel and go beyond the literal text and wait, I think so. I think that's a given. I don't see that as a challenge.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. This one, write engaging brief biographies and obituaries without obvious hallucinations.
So this goes back to the issue of reliability that we were talking about earlier in relation to AGI. Like, reliability is a massive, massive issue, and it's one of those things that, like, I don't see it being solved quickly or easily. But that's not to say that someone isn't going to just turn around and say, "Yeah, we managed to solve it." But this is a tricky one because, like, sure, it'll definitely be able to write engaging brief biographies and obituaries without obvious hallucinations. However, I don't think it will be able to always do that. I think there will, right now with the technology that we have, reliability is a massive issue and is not going to be fixed easily.
I agree with you. I have a request, Frank. If I die in the next 3 years, can you get it to write my obituary and get it to hallucinate as much as possible, please? one few actual facts in there as we can get less facts. That'll be great. All right, the next one I think is a really good test, right? Learn and master the basics of almost any new video game within a few minutes or hours and solve original puzzles in the alternate world of that video game. Now, that is a good test.
It is.
And I think that's a real challenge. I don't know that one will be done in the next 3 years, but I think that will become a benchmark. That's a really good benchmark. Give it a game, get it, play the game. Learn how to play the game.
There are AIs that learn games right now. It just I don't know how quickly it takes to learn them, but I know that's a thing, that like they have AIs because it's used in game testing. So they have AIs that learn games and play them. And even if earlier we were talking about the ARC AGI test, I mean, that is solving puzzles. So the two things, I would say this one we might even be there. I don't really know.
Interesting. I think that's a really hard one, and I think it's a good one. I think that's a really interesting one. Write cogent, persuasive legal briefs without hallucinating any cases. That's exactly the same as the other one.
We're back to the whole reliability thing there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Reliably construct bug-free code of more than 10,000 lines from natural language. Okay, this is in my domain. I can tell you that I think this will be solved within this year. Might even be solved before the end of the month with O3. I don't see this as an issue. Absolutely, this will be done in 3 years. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. The next two I think are in your domain. Okay, so here's the really important part. With little or no human involvement, write Pulitzer caliber books, fiction and non-fiction. And actually, we might as well do the other one. With little or no human involvement, write Oscar caliber screenplays. Do you think that's possible?
In 3 years? I'm going to say no. But I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say no, but I also, this is a weird answer because I'm going to say no, but I'm also completely and utterly open to the fact that in 3 years, like anything could happen, any new development. Like if we're like, let me just have a look. Let me go back to the top of this can AI do 8 of these 10? So it's just, can AI do it? So therefore, I would say not based on the current architecture, not based on like current LLMs. However, if like Jan LeCun turns around and goes, yeah, I told you LLMs were not the way forward, and here's this new thing that I've put together, and it can write a Pulitzer caliber novel, that's not going to surprise me. It's just that right now where we are with LLMs, I don't see it happening because every indication is kind of like, AI is kind of as creative as a lot of humans, but not as creative as the most creative humans. And it takes the most creative human to write an Oscar-winning movie or a Pulitzer Prize book.
Okay, that's a good point. All right. Okay, I take that point. That's a good one. But I will counter with the what's his name? The pasta eating, the spaghetti eating video. What's his name? Will Smith. Will Smith eating pasta. Right. In 12 months, if you look at the progress, right? If I was to ask you 14 months ago, what will video be like in 14 months? Will it be able to do a video of whatever? Right? You would have looked at that and just gone, no way. No way.
I'm not sure that I would, to be honest. Because I think that, it's a short moment. It's a short moment. And I think that, for that reason, it became possible. Could somebody write, can AI write a paragraph that would fit within a Pulitzer Prize winning book? Absolutely. Yes. Could it write a page? Yes, possibly. But could it write the book? That's where I'm like, no, it couldn't. Not yet. And not with current LLM capabilities, I think.
All right, okay. Let's move on to the last two then, right? With little or no human involvement, come up with paradigm-shifting, Nobel-caliber scientific discoveries. I'm going to say, well, what do you think on this one?
Whoa, like given how far that realm is from what I do, I find that very hard to answer. But, I think there are, on one hand, I'm like, it's the same thing that like we don't have what's the in the game Go? What was the
Yes.
move? The really creative move?
Or move 37. Yes.
Yeah. So that incredible move that it made, that everyone thought was a mistake, and then in retrospect, everyone was like, no, that was actually just a really creative way of looking at the game Go. I feel like we've seen so few of those in the realm of creativity, and I think that applies to science as well. However, like Nobel caliber scientific discoveries, it's the Nobel caliber there that I'm kind of thinking this is probably the same as the Hollywood screenplay and the Pulitzer, that, like, again, with current LLMs, probably not. Will we see a lot more scientific discoveries from current AI? Yes, I think we will. But will they be Nobel level?
Okay.
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to go the other way on this one, Frank. I will right here, right now, place a bet with you that says that in the same time frame, in 3 years, so 3 years from now, not only will AI make paradigm shifting, Nobel caliber scientific discoveries, but I would be prepared to bet you that every Nobel scientific discovery will have been made at least with the assistance of AI and probably by AI itself, if people were honest. Brilliant scientific discoveries are often made by putting, two bits of disparate information together in a new and novel way. And AI is particularly good at doing that sort of a thing. And this idea where it can think through problems afterwards, again, you've got to think about something very hard. I'm absolutely sure that it will. Absolutely sure.
I will agree with you about the assistance 100%. But this challenge starts with little or no human involvement, and I guess that would concern me. As in, I think AI can, very quickly iterate through so much data and iterate through so many possibilities that it makes discoveries possible. But I feel like a lot of those discoveries probably then rely on humans looking at the output and figuring out, oh, hang on, this is the kernel here that we've been looking for. This is what constitutes the Nobel. If it was just left to AI to both come up with the idea and identify it as the concept, as the concept that should be put forward, I'm not so sure.
All right, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to tie it into the last one, right? And I'll tie the two. So the last one then is take arbitrary proofs from the mathematical literature written in natural language and convert them into symbolic form suitable for symbolic verification. So take a theorem written in English and convert it into symbols that nobody understands so that a propeller head can prove that it's correct, right? That's kind of what they're saying here. And to go back to the previous one, I'm okay. I'm not betting that this will happen, but I can imagine a future where we look at, okay, so there's this cool thing where if you look at galaxies, they don't rotate the way that we think they should, right? So the outside should rotate slower than the inside, and it doesn't. The outside rotates at the same speed as the inside. And because of that, they have dark matter and dark energy and all that sort of stuff to make up for stuff that, they just don't understand why that is. And I'm saying that I don't know that it'll happen, but I could imagine that in 3 years, you could turn around to an AI and say, could you look at those galaxies and figure out for me, please, why it is that, the outside and the inside are spinning at the same speed? Because we don't understand that. And it would go off, figure it out, come up with a natural language description of why that is mathematically, and then convert it into symbolic language that we could go and do the sums very slowly and prove that what it said is correct, which would cover both 9 and 10. I don't know that will happen, but that will be with very little human involvement, which is just the prompting to say, can you figure out what's going on there?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that one.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. So, but it's, I mean, I'm looking at this going, I think Gary Marcus, by the way, can I just point out, I was being a bit whatever. Gary Marcus said about 6 months ago, and definitely said 12 months ago, AI has hit a wall. It's going to be really obvious by the end of 2025 that it's a total joke. All the companies are going to lose all their value and they're going to be valueless. And now he's having bets with Miles Brundage about how far, like he's just a naysayer. It's so annoying. He's just You know, and he'll totally forget about the fact that he said that all the companies are going to be worth nothing and that it was going to hit. You know, now he's just looking for something else to pick on. So, no, Gary, no. AI's got this in the bag. Could be no problem.
I certainly hope. I hope nobody forgets about this bet. I hope that in 3 years' time, and it's the internet, so somebody's going to remember, and somebody's going to tweet about this, and it'll be really interesting in 3 years' time to go through this list and see which ones are possible and which ones aren't.
Yeah, it is a good idea to keep note of bets and predictions from the past, so that we can check to see if they're true in the future.
Yes. Can you think of any predictions that were made in the past that we could check today, Justin?
Interestingly, in 2016, the Sun newspaper, my favorite newspaper of record, made predictions by 2025. Would you like to know what those predictions were, Frank?
I would love to know. What did they say would be going on in 2025?
Robot romance revealed. Women will be having more sex with robots than men by 2025. They could be talking about married robots and married men.
Now, we do have a 12-month window for them to still be correct, right? Like,
yes. I'm really stunned that this was published on the 30th of June 2016. This is one of the most accurate predictions I've ever seen. It's incredible. Like, it's incredible. I mean, wasn't your man, what's his name, Jensen, the NVIDIA dude? He was talking about this at CES. I don't think he was talking specifically about this. He was talking about robots, but obviously, I mean,
humanoid
robots go.
Humanoid robots. Women will be having more sex with robots than men.
Yes.
Do you not think that the opposite is like more? Do you think it's more likely that men will be having more sex with robots?
Yeah, I know. Maybe when this was written, they thought that would happen sometime around 2019, and women would only catch up.
Yeah. Okay, that would explain it. Yes, that would explain it. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they say that it's going to be women. Why do they pick on women? I'm not really sure. But it is very prescient. I do think, I mean, have we watched Westworld? Have we seen what happened in Westworld?
Westworld, Humans, the English, the UK show that I was talking to you about before. Yeah.
So, and we've seen that Polish startup that looked exactly like Westworld. It had the muscles and the torso and everything that was white and used, was it water? I think it was, and they had synthetic muscles and it had a lymph system and everything. So, look, you got to give it yet again. The sun comes out on top. If you want to know what's really going on in the world, read The Sun, UK edition. That's my advice, Frank.
And before we finish up, let's just give a quick nod to how poorly Apple Intelligence is being received in the world.
My goodness, Apple have become the new Google. Google have thrown it all away by catching up. Apple are falling. I don't know what the hell is going on. So there've been many complaints this week about Apple Intelligence making up headlines and giving them to people. And people are saying, look, improve your product. You got to make this better. And Apple,
so basically, it's meant to be kind of.
I'd say you've got loads of Apple products, do you?
I use a MacBook, which I absolutely love, but I moved away from their phones and I went to Google. I've been a Pixel user for years now.
Oh, really? I'm surprised because Apple are kind of like the European Union of the AI. They like to, lock everything down and make sure that it's private, it's secured, not possibly useful in any way whatsoever. And they're starting. Apple will suffer, by the way, for this. Google are starting to bring out their. I was at that, and I'm joking, right? But I'm an Apple house here. But Google, what's the Google Home? No, it is Google Home actually. So they're going to bring their AI product to Google Home very shortly, I'm reading. And Apple are going to find a lot of competition from Google, and people will move if their AI products work better.
So, just to talk about the Apple Intelligence thing, for again, it's meant to be summarizing news articles for people, and it's just getting it totally wrong. And this is really interesting because we talked on the show before about a study that showed that AI is not actually really that good at summarization, even though it's one of the things that people use it for. And not to actually, no, absolutely to harp on something that is like, hey, I was right. But this is another instance where like using AI to generate outputs that the user can't necessarily validate is a terrible, terrible idea. Because if you're just using the summaries in the way that we would have been, you know, like I admit I'll frequently just read the headlines of stuff and not read the article. And now we're going to have people reading the headline and the summary. Except that the summary is now possibly completely and utterly wrong. And the only way you would know that is if you go in and read the full article. And they had some pretty, what did they say? The BBC complained after an AI-generated summary of its headline falsely told some readers that Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, had shot himself. Completely and utterly incorrect. And there were loads of other instances like that. So, yeah, I think just another instance where this idea, in my opinion, that AI can, you know, that we should be reliant on output from AI without being able to validate the content is a terrible, terrible idea.
The AI they're using is crap as well, though. I mean, that's the basic issue here. You should not be like they're hobbling. This is, I mean, it's bad news for you, right? But they're as in, I don't mind, right? I want the biggest, baddest model to be, you know, being used. I want to use the one that's the most capable. I don't care about privacy so much. I don't care about the safety issues so much. You know, I've got a job to do. Just give me the best model to do the job. Whereas Apple are, you know, locking it down so that it's on your phone. So they've constricted the amount of horsepower it has. And then it goes out to their data center, but they're putting all sorts of, so they're handcuffing their AI model, and you're going to get worse output. And they're going to lose as a result because, you know, Elon Musk isn't going to hobble his AI. And, you know, Google isn't going to hobble their AI as much. And OpenAI, and, you know, so there's just going to be better models, and people aren't going to use the Apple devices. And this is going to be the differentiator between products soon. You know, it used to be form factor. It used to be that the interface was really easy to use. But in a world where you've got AI, do I even need an interface anymore? Like, do I need apps to be able to, you know, I just want to I've just talked to it and say, here, do this, do that, do the other thing. This is the year of agents. And so the user interface in some respects becomes less important. And it's just the human to machine interface becomes more important. And AI is going to be a big part of that. And Apple need to recognize and fix their course fast, or they're going to start losing a lot of money.
Yeah. I think they're definitely having a bad moment in time. Not only with AI, they also like they've stopped their VR, their AR VR headset. They seem to be having a little bit of a struggling moment right now. It'll be interesting to see if they can recover from it.
It's very interesting because I turned around, my phone upgraded itself to iOS 18.3 or whatever it was there 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and suddenly everything started breaking and slowing down. I turned around to my kids and said, "Look, did you update?" And they're like, "Yeah." And it's like, you know, the reason that I would have got an Apple phone 15 years ago or whatever it was, everything worked. It was locked down. It wasn't flaky. You know, it was a mark of quality. This thing was bulletproof, and it was easy to use, and it was beautiful. And it's still beautiful, but it's not quite as easy to use. In fact, they seem to be making a lot of effort to make it hard to use, and it's not quite as fancy, you know.
I have to say that I think that's why I jumped to the Pixel, was because what I found was that I would get a new iPhone, and then a couple of models later, the iOS would update, and suddenly my phone was really struggling. And so I felt like I was on this constant hamster wheel of having to upgrade. So I swapped to Pixel, and I just find personally, my experience is that, you know, I don't feel that need to upgrade as often. I often have my Pixels for years, probably much longer than I should do, and they just last and they work, and I'm really happy with them. That said, MacBook wouldn't use any other computer. So yeah.
There you go. Very good. Well, Frank, welcome to the new year. This, by the way, I think I was going to ask you for your predictions. Maybe we'll do a couple of predictions next week, right, as to what you think. But and so I won't preempt that. But I do think this could be one of the most interesting years in the next 12 months. Where a lot
interesting and possibly pretty turbulent.
By the end of the year, possibly, yeah, it'll be fascinating. But look, we'll be here to chat about it and to hopefully not to pick over the ashes.
Yeah, hopefully we will be here to talk about it. That's a good point.
All right, brilliant. Well, look, if we make it as far as next week, Frank, I look forward to talking to you then.
Chat to you then.